And now we're going to talk with some Black men around mental health and justice. I see the folks on the line, and these are my brothers and our leaders in our community. They are our neighbors, our barbers, and our friends. And for those who choose to join us on Saturday, they will be our barbecue pitmen. So I am excited to introduce you to Erik Smith of Inclusivity, who will be leading our discussion on Black men and mental health, feeling, healing, and dealing. Erik?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Butler. Let me take a hot second. I hope the rest of the brothers are getting on. But let me take a second because we're technically on in about 8 minutes. So I know they'll be zooming in. So if we could take a pause for the cause. I'm going to throw up a little slide.
Absolutely. We will do that, and I will do a plug for Saturday. For those who do not know about our Saturday event, we will definitely welcome you. Healing While Black is a 2-day experience. For those who don't know, we gather early on Thursday night. That's when our presenters start showing up, and we gather around the table for a meal and in preparation and in fellowship. Then on Friday, just like today, we spend all day learning and fellowshipping and connecting together, considering what our next moves are. Saturday is an intentional time for us to slow down and reflect, strategize, and mobilize together. This Saturday, we will have Brown Girl Brunch. It is a space for Black women to come together. This year, we have Reverend Jennifer Carner, who will be speaking about the winning woman, healing from colorism and cultural trauma. We also will have Daphne Fuller from Black Minds and Meditation, who will continue to work as we explore the Black body in healing. For our diverse audience, we will have a textured conversation. It's called Textured Conversation, where we will lean into our unique perspectives and lived experiences led by Black Therapist Rock founder, Duran Young. Men, y'all gonna meet with Erik, the one who will be facilitating this session. And when I sat with him in the car, trying to figure out what our next right move was, he said, I have it. We're just gonna have a little sip, and then we're gonna have some tips. So we're gonna have an opportunity to grill and chill and talk about and just be brothers together. So that is what we will be doing on Saturday. If you are in St. Petersburg, Florida, we have joined with the 100+ Black men, and we will be walking with them in solidarity. The well will be delivering water as well as support for individuals engaged in that walk. We also have if you're in the area and you're walking with us, we do have barbecue because it would not be a well event if we didn't have good food. So please join us. If you're in another state, Erik is going to direct you in how do you set up your own virtual or your drive-by barbecue, because we want all of us to be connected during this time. Again, I'm so excited about this time to be able to spend with our brothers, led by Erik Smith of Inclusivity. Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen right quick so y'all can get a feel for where we're going in this conversation. So I'm going to, we're not going to get started for another 5 minutes, but I'm going to let you see the brothers that are going to be on. Can everybody see my screen? Is that a yes? Thumbs up? Yes? Okay, good. So they will all be, I think most of them are on. There might be a little technical snafu they may have come up on with my name by their face, but just so you can know who they are, because they're all not me. So give me another couple of minutes. We'll be getting started promptly at around 3:15.
Absolutely, Erik. Right now we have Tiffany in the scale. Right now, Tiffany's going to share a little bit more around our healing work, especially when it comes down to the justice movement. Tiffany is lead organizer of We Heal and our leader in Atlanta, Georgia, our Atlanta chapter of the Well for Life. Tiffany, share with everyone our work as we heal.
Absolutely. So healing justice is a framework that centers sustainability of Black healing. It centers around removing obstacles to the necessities that we have around being able to experience joy, creativity, love, space, and freedom. As clinicians, as healers, as wellness practitioners, wherever we land on that spectrum, sometimes we can, in our own privilege, stand in the way of healing. So the healing justice movement asks us to look at ourselves and our role in oppression and continuing some of the works of white supremacy and colonization. And so with that, it is the work of a healing justice collective to make accessible healing. So going out to protest, meeting people, that literal meeting of people where they are. We talk about that a lot in therapy, but we do it in the context of the office while someone is on the couch. When we talk about healing justice, it means going out. It means providing services, making sure mental health, wellness, including traditional practices, are available to those incarcerated persons, homeless persons, single moms, folks who have physical or emotional health disabilities, anything, those who may not be comfortable coming into some of the spaces that our offices are. So the protest support is one way, being able to have proactive classes, and then training folks to be able to hold space so that we are not gatekeepers of that skill set. Because just because we have all those letters behind our name does not mean that we own the patent to being able to help people find their joy, their healing.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. I see that we have a few more minutes to be able to talk about our next steps. This is not a one-time opportunity. We were so blessed to receive support for our efforts with responding to COVID from the Tampa Bay Resiliency Fund. We also received support from the Foundation for a Healthy St. Petersburg. We then found additional support through Duke Energy, who is one of our newest partners who will be supporting the ongoing work of this collaborative. If you have enjoyed your experience and want to go deeper in learning and collaborative work, we ask that you connect with us on healingwhileblack.org. We will have monthly seminars. We will have opportunities for collaborations for research and opportunities to do collective healing work together. You simply just need to be a part of the tribe. For our allies and for those who stand in the sun with us, we simply ask that you go on the ride with us. We will have specialty support and support training sessions for you, as well as opportunities for you to participate in training and development so that we can be the best for this type of work. Again, we would not be here without your generous support. This year, we have a generosity-based economy where you contribute based on your resources. So if you have not had an opportunity to give or to contribute to this work, we will provide the link in our chat for you to be able to support the ongoing work. We can't just say we're supportive without putting some resources to match. So with that, I believe we're right at the 3:15 mark. I also see that my pastor, Pastor Carlos Sr., has joined, and so I acknowledge his presence because he is consistently talking about the message of love in action as we engage our faith in action. So again, thank you so much. Eric, thank you so much. And we are looking forward to this next segment as we explore Black men feeling, healing, and dealing.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Butler, for the introduction. So welcome to the segment, Feeling, Dealing, and Healing. Men Talk Mental Health. We'll be chatting a little bit about, who we are, kind of how we encountered, what our first engagement was with a mental health issue, and kind of just talking about some of the taboos and challenges associated with being men, specifically being black men, and identifying in the conversation. So I'm going to let all of the brothers introduce themselves, but just because I think we're having a bit of a technical difficulty, so you'll see a lot of Erik Smiths in this session. That they're not all me, obviously. So I'm Erik Smith, but the rest of the brothers will introduce themselves accordingly. So we're going to start with Paul Creel. He's a good friend of mine from Cleveland, personal trainer, but I'll let Paul introduce himself. You got to unmute yourself, brother. Okay. So while Paul's figuring out how to mute yourself, I'm gonna jump to my. Okay, there you go.
Sorry about that. My name is Paul Creel. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, born and raised. I'm a personal trainer for the last 25 years. I'm a father of, might as well say 4, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Right, perfect. Appreciate it, Paul. I'm gonna go to Major Matt first, one of the sons of St. Pete.
Hello, everybody. I'm Matthew First. I'm a St. Pete native, and I'm father of 4, and a major at the St. Petersburg Police Department. Happy to be here.
Thanks, brother. Brother Kirk Ray Smith. Kirk, you on? Gotta unmute yourself, brother. Gotta come off mute. There you go.
Can you see me?
Sir, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm Kirk Ray Smith, President and CEO of RCS Pinellas. I'm a father of 3 adult sons, 20, 28, 25, and 23. I am from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I never met a good person from Cleveland. So, and that includes you, Erik. So I'm looking forward to this. So anyway, that's me.
Oh, funny as the nasty natty reports in. Gotta love it. Dr. James Peterson will be coming on at momentarily. Said he'd be running a little bit late, so I'm gonna toss it over to my oldest son, young Turner.
Hi, how are you? I'm Derek Turner. I'm a recent Akron College graduate. I just got my degree in chemistry. I'm glad to be here, the youngest one of the bunch. So I can't wait to give my my insight out.
Don't talk about insights. Alrighty, so thank you all for joining. I appreciate your time to chat with us. We got a variety of perspectives here, so we're just gonna jump into it. So we're just gonna go around the room. So what was your first encounter with a mental health issue? And probably more specifically, when did you, in that first encounter, when did you realize that's what it was? So I'm gonna go
ahead. This is Paul. I was in college, probably about 19 years old. I had a girlfriend who was an upperclassman, and we had been together for about 3 years in college. And so that would have made her around 23-ish, 24. And back then I just noticed a difference in her behavior, and I thought it was the end of just problems we were having in the relationship. And we kept going with the relationship, and it kept getting more difficult. And eventually I left that college, and we broke up. And it wasn't until about 2 years later that she called me to apologize because come to find out, she was bipolar. And that was my first, so then I could think back on all the different things that were going on at the time, and that explained her behavior. And since then, I've dealt with family members who've had mental issues and friends and so forth. It didn't lessen the fact that we broke up, but it did explain a lot. And then later on in life, I was able to see it in other people and understand it better. The mental illness, and I had a younger brother-in-law who suffered from schizophrenia, and to deal with his issues, it wasn't easy. You have that same problem of what people have, not taking their medication, don't believe they need to take their medication. But it's a tough thing to, I'm noticing it's a tough thing to deal with as a family member or as a person suffering from those illnesses.
Thank you, appreciate you sharing. Who else wants to jump in? Matt, since you're a police officer, here in the city, so talk to me a little bit about your first encounter and what you remember of it.
Sure. Oddly enough, I think my first encounter with mental illness that I recognized probably was myself. I was the youngest of four, and when my mother and father split up, I didn't know for 2 years that they split up. And when I found out, when I really realized that my dad wasn't coming back, I recognized in myself that I was struggling with that quite a bit. And I was only about 12 years old at the time, and didn't know what to do. And both of my older brothers were gone to the military and other things. And so it was just me, my mom, and my sister. And I noticed myself acting out in different ways that nobody else really saw. But fortunately, I had some other men that stepped into my life that helped kind of guide me back on the right path. But so I'd have to say myself would be the first one. From a law enforcement perspective, dealing with people with mental health issues is quite frequent. Unfortunately, especially in our community, there are people with undiagnosed conditions because it's kind of taboo to talk about it or to reach out for help. And sometimes that becomes a problem with getting people the resources that they need and the proper response when it comes to police work.
Okay. Thanks, brother, for sharing. Kurt.
Yes, sir. For me, actually, back in 90, maybe 94, 95. So, wife and I raising a young family. At that point, we only had 2 sons. And I was very committed to the church, did whatever they needed me to do, stayed late, gave all my money, gave my tithes, whatever it took. I remember one time we had paid tithes and we were out of money. We had no money to pay our bills at all. We had paid tithes, that was it. We had nothing left. Couldn't pay the rent, couldn't buy groceries, done. So I walked to the church about 4 or 5 miles because I didn't have transportation at the time. And I was in the military, by the way. And I went to the leadership, the number 2 person. I said, hey, can y'all pray for me and my family because we don't have any money and, we gave everything we had. And the first thing he said to me is that the church can't do anything for you financially. And all I asked him for, God honest truth, was to pray with us. That was it. But the first thing he said before he said anything else was that we can't help you financially. That broke my heart, devastated me. And that was one of my first real examples of what God did not look like. And I was actually believing that's what, it devastated, broke my heart. I'd already had issues with, just how I saw myself as it were, and felt like all of it was a waste. These people didn't really care about me. And I felt like a failure. Went back home and, couldn't support my family. And my youngest son needed diapers and we couldn't afford it. And back then, I think you get some diapers for like $5. And I remember driving around town at night and I saw a bank that we had an account with years ago and put this ATM card in there and it was like $10 in there and I was able to get him diapers and some milk. So the bottom line was that devastated me, and that played had a huge impact on me. How I always struggled with how I saw a black man, because I have no idea who my father was. And those guys really devastated me, man. And that hurt me for a long time with trust issues and all of that, and of all places at the church.
Wow, that's deep. Appreciate you sharing. Dr. Peterson, can you want to introduce yourself to everybody and then give me your first encounter with a mental health issue?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate all the organizers and the opportunity to be on this panel. You know, I'm a writer and an educator and a consultant. Do a little bit of work in diversity, equity, and inclusion space, and I'm a columnist for the Philadelphia Citizen here in Philadelphia. You know, this is a great opening to this, and I think my first actual encounter was, we had a family member, a cousin of mine, who had been involved in some kind of cult. And when the family had extracted her from that situation, she came to live with us. And I was too young to really process this, but she had experienced, it was a very traumatic experience for her, and it had a lot of different impacts on her mental health. She was like sullen, and she could, shift from being sullen to being like erratic, and she was obviously like in recovery from whatever that experience was. And I realized that there was something going on as a child, but I didn't process it as, oh, this is like a mental health thing. To be honest with you, the first time I really started thinking about mental health issues, like in terms of like how we define it now, and usually was when I saw One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And I probably was around 10 or 11 by the time I had seen the film. Came out earlier in the 70s, but I was probably about 10 or 11 when I saw it. And, I just remember thinking about how awful those institutions seemed to me through the lens of the film. And like, I don't know if you guys remember the film, but it's like a lot of the black characters are bad guys because the black guys are orderlies in this institution. And so I had like a lot of dissonance with watching the film, but I identified a lot with Chief, the big Native American character who was always quiet. You never really could figure out why he was in there. But he was the only person who was really able to escape in the end. And it's just, if you think about, those kinds of institutions don't even exist so much right now, which is a big challenge in my research now. A lot of what we do with people who have mental health challenges is we put them in regular prisons. But I just felt like, the film gave me some kind of sense that our society doesn't really care that much about people who have mental health issues. And that was a very disheartening thing to come to terms with at a young age.
Got it. I appreciate you being vulnerable. Young Turner, round us out, sir.
Like the major said, my first experience was with myself. I probably experienced what I would like to believe is some type of mental health issues. And I want to say around middle school time. I know that's a hard time for everybody, a lot of changing moving parts. But during this time, I was playing football, baseball, and for me, I tried to form to fit everybody else instead of being myself. And that put a big strain on my mental health because I was trying to be something that I wasn't. And it took me a long time to learn that you can't please everybody out here. And most of the time you're doing it for yourself. So thankfully I had others around me who kept me positive, kept me going. My mother and others that influenced me to show me who my real self is and will continue to be. So that's I would like to say, first experience with some sort of mental health issue.
Got you. I really appreciate the perspective all given. I'm going to step out of the role as moderator. I'm actually going to join this conversation as I'm going. Actually, I would agree with both Derek as well as Matt, and that my first encounter with it, although I didn't know it for what it was with me as a child. When my parents got divorced, it wrecked me because I didn't understand, and not understanding why my father couldn't be in the house, or experiencing the police coming to the house to take him out of the house, and he wouldn't go, and me standing in front of the police saying you're not going to take my father was traumatic in and of itself. So to have this understanding of one day we're all in the house together, with all the stuff that was going on, and then we go out to dinner, and I come back and everybody, if you could please mute your phones, that would be very, very helpful. And so with coming back and him being gone, I was wrecked, and I went from sleeping in the bed with my mom because I couldn't go to sleep, to sleeping on the floor in her room, to sleeping in the hallway next to her door, to sleeping in the hallway near my door, to eventually getting back into my bed. That took a year for me to do that. And that was also in the tail end of, like the beginning of middle school, tail end of elementary school. So, that was my first experience. Also now, reflecting on it, that was severe depression and trauma. And how it was handled was, eventually my mom got me into counseling, but it took a while because I don't think she knew what to do. But also it was the idea of, my son's got to go to counseling. So that was my first time dealing with that. So brothers, I feel you. This is emotional. I'm choked. I'm holding them back right now. Because so going on to the next question, and this is a good one, because this is the one that I think we're probably going to get the most dialogue out of, is why is it so difficult for men to talk about mental health? Anybody can jump in on
I mean, there's a lot of reasons why. I think, number one, I think the way that men are socialized is, we're socialized into a certain kind of a sense of masculinity and a certain sense of like patriarchy that I think ultimately does way more damage than it does good, especially for Black men. And so part of that socialization is, about not showing weakness. I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, and I grew up in neighborhoods that, were plagued by poverty, concentrated poverty, underground economies, whether that was hustling drugs or other things. And so I was socialized in a world where showing weakness was not acceptable. And I think as you're growing up, you honestly do believe that that's like a survival strategy. Like as a young Black man growing up in Newark, I felt like not having or showing any emotions or not processing or showing any feelings to things. I honestly felt that was a survival strategy in terms of where I grew up. And so the whole idea that you would get help or ask for help, at least when I was young, seemed like it was a pretty it was a foreign concept. And I think the way that we teach young boys how to be men still has a lot of that still built into it. I think we still, we still like raise our sons in a way that makes them feel bad if they cry or feel emotions, or we raise our sons in a way that just subscribes to a very flattened out, limited sense of what Black masculinity can be. And as somebody who was kind of raised that way, I think I still have to wrestle with the residue of that to be more expressive, to be more in touch with my own feelings, and to understand when it's appropriate for me to ask for help and to seek help, in challenging situations. But I just feel like in general, you know, we're raised a certain kind of way. You're raised to be hard, and you're raised to be emotionless. And even if that's not your own father or the men in your family doing that, I think the community of Black men that I came up in was a community that was racked with the prison industrial complex, crack economy, not necessarily like organized kind of gang warfare, but a lot of like conflict in the streets of Newark, New Jersey. And just to even be able to walk through the streets, to be able to go to the store or to go to school, there's a certain mask you had to wear to do that. And I think when we were young, we think to ourselves it's survival strategies, but really it's antithetical to our mental health. It just is. But asking for help, even now, is not an easy thing for me to do, just based upon the way that I came up in the world.
Gotcha. So
for me, you know, I grew up in that environment. Like you said, I to this day, I've never thought I saw my dad cry, but I was always a highly emotional person. So even if I wanted to keep it down, it was coming out if I wanted to or not. I found myself embracing it to myself. I understood society's, you know, how they looked upon you as a man to, you know, about crying and being emotional. So, but when I really got into physical fitness and all that kind of stuff, I found, you know, the crying and talking about my feelings helped. It literally made me feel better physically. And so what I ended up learning was that I couldn't hold this in. I had to let it out. And I knew that some people, be it a significant other at the time or whatever, may frown upon it, but like I said, to myself, I had to do it. I had to cry sometimes. I had to talk it out. And as I got older and more mature, I realized that, no, that's what you do. That's if you're feeling depressed, or, you know, you may be holding in some of these emotions and never dealing with some issues that are making you literally sick at times. And, you know, being predisposed to different things, high blood pressure and all that, I could never afford to, you know, make myself sick, you know, in most cases on purpose. But having good friends and other brothers to talk to is paramount. It's so important. And that, and being in this panel with you gentlemen it's exciting, to say the least. And I hope I don't get too emotional, but
good stuff, man. I appreciate you. Matt, where you at, sir? Why is it so difficult for us to talk about this?
Well, I think the brothers have hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think the majority of us were raised, you know, the same. I have two older brothers and an older sister. And as the youngest, they like to try to call me the baby, but I don't go for that. But the youngest, you know, with two older brothers, you know, they try to toughen you up, beat you up, you know, ain't gonna be no punks, so on and so forth. And I swore when I was a kid that if I had sons, I was gonna do them the same way. And at some point, when my father, I had a huge disconnect with my dad. But in 2009, he was diagnosed with cancer. I came to a point where, you know, I said I had to get it off my chest, and I confronted him right after he was given 6 months to live. My idiot self thought it was a good idea to just go ahead and confront him about how I felt, and you know, about him leaving and all that. And, you know, and he looked me dead in my face and barely had any kind of emotion at all. And it took him several years. He was spared to live another 8 years actually after being diagnosed. But it took several more years before he actually broke down and talked to me about what I explained to him I felt about my childhood experience with him. And so I think it's just the culture. We're taught to fight through so much. You know, my mother is a tough woman. She was raised by an abusive father who raped her and her sisters. And I can probably count the number of times I've seen my mom cry. So having super tough mom, you know, tough guy dad, tough guy brothers, it's like, you know, like everybody's saying, it's kind of frowned upon to show any kind of weakness. But I'm truly thankful for the healing I had with my father, because it changed. At the time, I only had one son, but it certainly changed how I raised my now 4 sons in terms of them dealing with their emotions and letting them know that it's okay to have them, to recognize that they exist and to deal with them instead of telling them to toughen up all the time.
I appreciate that, brother. Young Turner. Oh, you about to go first?
That's okay.
Okay.
I'll wait.
Young Buck, talk to me.
For me, it's difficult to talk because as a young African American male, you want to portray this image as you want to be hard. You gotta be the best. You gotta do the best. You don't show no weakness. You go out there and grind every single day. But with that grindness comes ups and downs. And for Black men especially, when we get in those downs, sometimes we don't know how to pick each other back up. And I think that's the hardest thing that I struggle with as a young male in the St. Pete community, is sometimes we don't know how to connect with our other brothers, pick them back up when they're down or they don't know how to handle a certain issues. We gotta tell each other that it's okay to let me know how you feeling. Sometimes it's not all in your head. You know, it's always better once you talk it out. So for me, I think we gotta better connect. I have to better connect with me and my friends to have them let me know how they're feeling. They don't have to be tough all the time. They don't have to be, you know, the partner sometimes. So that's that.
Go ahead, man.
I gotta figure out something.
Is it on me or no? Oh.
Yeah, go ahead, Kurt.
Well, I think, and I agree with each of the brothers. I'm going to take a little bit of a different angle around this issue. For me, it's a defense mechanism for us. While we don't talk about it, we shut down to protect ourselves. The reality is who cares about us, man? Who cares if my heart is broken? Who cares if I'm frustrated as a Black man? I understand that we're either going to be the first one, the only one, or the last one. I understand, regardless of how many cats tell me this, we don't get 9 lives. We only get 1. We don't get second chances. If we break down and we're hurting, then that means we're angry. That means we're a threat. If we show any kind of weakness, then that means that's an opportunity to attack us or hurt us or come against us. Oftentimes, our pain is used against us, and then we become the problem. So if we express how we feel, it's our fault. We didn't do enough of something. We did too much of something else. And so a lot of times for us, we don't want to talk about it because number one, we don't really believe people genuinely care about us. And definitely when it comes to being a Black man, Black men who in society is really interested in our issues, we can't express frustration because if we do, we're going to hurt everybody. We have to watch how we look because we may look scary. Some of us, we have to make everybody laugh to disarm the masses, to make them feel better and to protect their fragility. Time and time again, we'll be the only one in the room. It could be 25 other white people, but we have to make them comfortable. So we have to make them laugh, although we may be hurting or afraid. ourselves. And I told someone this years ago, and I believe this to be true. And I don't know how many of you guys relate to this. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I remember going to places over and over and over, and one of the first things I would do is I would count black people. I would count how many black people are there. So listen, we would count black people at the movie theater. It didn't matter where we went, no matter the event, we always count, well, how many black people are here? And a white person asked me, well, Kirk, why do you always count black people? Well, I want to make sure it's okay for me to be there. And so my natural instinct is to count us. Why? Because there again, that, you know, that, and to me, that's trauma, right? That's stress, worried about how many black people are in a certain place, where others don't have to have that issue. And so that's part of it, is that we'll silently count each other and feel more comfortable. And again, we're looking for ways to feel better about where we are. But no one is really interested on how we feel as to where we actually are. So there's no reason to talk about it. Why am I going to tell you? What are you going to do for me? All you're going to do is hurt me like everybody else does. So now we have trust issues. So I think a lot of times, particularly as it relates to black men, and the whole masculine piece is absolutely true. Man, we're hard, we got to be tough, we got to grin and bear it, we got to get off the mat real quick. But as a black man, what else do we know? We have to overcome. I'm not interested in Negro spirituals and slave music. What I'm saying is that I get it. As a black man, you got to get up and get out and do something, like the old song went. And so I believe the world is won by those who show up. When we cry, when we're sad, no one's going to stop and check on us and see how we're doing. And that's sad. That's sad, man, that we can't hurt in public because no one's going to stop to check on us. If we're crying and laying on the ground, they'll probably shoot us because they think we're up to no good. Because we're supposed to be tough, strong, and mighty and overcome anything and never, ever, ever hurt under any circumstances. Because if we do, it's our fault. So the best way to protect myself is to stay silent.
Erik Smith, love that, love that. I mean, that's real talk. You know, when a lot of what we've been talking about is, you know, upbringing, how the world has perceived us. I'm gonna take it a slightly different tack before I get into the last question, because we got like 7 minutes. That's why we're gonna do the follow-up session tomorrow, because I knew it was gonna get deep and dope. We weren't gonna have enough time. But, you know, honestly, it was, for me, it was all of that. And, you know, I wanted to be in a relationship. I wanted to be with a woman. And what woman wants to be with a punk? What woman wants to be with a man that cries? What woman wants to be with a man who feels? So I would tuck all that stuff, mash it down, and when it hurt, I'd be like, you know, whatever. Cool, you know, it's all good. Knowing for a fact I am screaming on the inside. So, I mean, it was, for me, it was, you know, all of that, but it was also the desire to be in a situation where I found love. Because I really didn't get it. You know, I got a pound from my pops, you know what I'm saying? And I got yelled at from my moms. Both of them were doing the best that they could, given who they were and the level of trauma and drama that they experienced in their lives. But what I was looking for was something that they couldn't provide. So I had to dig, and it took me until my adult years, well into my adult years, to find my own stability, really depending on myself and God. Because I realized that something that my boy on the line, Paul Creel, would say to me all the time, and his mom told him, was human beings are going to disappoint you 100% of the time. So to understand that going in allowed you to give space and room for human error. But that never did anything to erase the pain experienced. So it was a defense mechanism of every time I heard I love you, I backed off and ran, because I was like, yeah, I know what's coming next. The next is going to be my heart bleeding. So I'm ghost. See ya. So I feel you on that. So this next question I want to get into, and I want to make sure I get Matt to respond to this, because this is something that I think is important to talk a little bit about now, given the circumstances, and we got about 5 minutes. But I did want to give a moment to get Matt to talk a little bit about, and during these times, being a son of St. Pete, but also being a major in the St. Pete Police Force. What are your specific stressors now?
Wow, that's A lot more than 5-minute answers. So, you know, I said I got 4 kids. Everybody knows what's going on in the world right now. And as a brother in the police force, you know, I can't speak for all, but I know most that I talk to, you know, we have to check on each other. These are turbulent times. Everybody's on edge, and there's a inherent conflict of being a Black police officer as it is. You know, but as we engage with people who are pouring their hearts out for change, you know, and you want to scream back that you're trying to, you know, the reason I'm here is to be a part of that change. You know, but right now everything's on deaf ears. So there's a lot of pressure just doing this job in today's climate. So a lot of my triggers, man, you know, I'm a supervisor over the major crimes unit here at the police department, which is homicide, robbery, digital forensics, sex crimes, kitty crimes, all kinds of stuff, all the bad stuff. And when it picks up, like this last 2 weeks have been busy. You know, we had the 2 missing ladies here, which means constant work for me. And I feel myself mentally checking out. You know, as a matter of fact, I told my wife over the weekend, as we're trying to prepare to move soon, hopefully, you know, I said, I feel myself on edge. And, you know, and I said that 3 or 4 days in a row. And she finally was like, you know, I never heard you say that you are so much on edge or snappy, if you will, as you have in these last 3 or 4 days. And I told her, because there's no real mental escape right now. You know, you can't go nowhere because of COVID. Every time something flare up in the city, I got to go to work. So that's 60, 70 hours a week at times. So, you know, what do you do? And so the only thing I can do right now is be honest with myself that, hey, things are a little overwhelming right now. And when I get to that point, what I do, you know, because I'm also in school for my doctorate, been at the same point, you know, for this whole time. I'm at dissertation phase, and I've been there for almost 3 years now. So for y'all that got these doctorates, y'all know what I'm talking about. You know, I have to force myself to take a break from everything. And with my family, you know, 3-bedroom house with 4 boys, there's no escape but the garage. Sometimes I talk to Eric, I'm sitting outside in the garage at the furthest corner, just and chilling and getting far away from everything and everybody, or I sit in the car, but I have to do that. And I tell my wife all the time, I have to protect my energy. So that means not very much news. I don't watch a lot of news. I'm not on social media too much, because that stuff will consume you. And this job that I have, I take very seriously. And if I'm not protecting my energy, you know, the danger is really what everybody's protesting against. If you're not protecting that energy and making sure that you are fit for duty, mentally fit for duty, then you're liable to go ahead and do something stupid. And so, you know, that's really where I'm at right now. It's been a long, rough week. This whole thing here is kind of cathartic for me, so I do appreciate it. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with life right now. But you already know, Eric.
No doubt, no doubt. So, folks, I want to make sure I got in that perspective just because of everything that's